the U.S. Really needs to make changes in the medical system where too many people are dying from opioids and other drugs. And we could take a fifth of the opioids if you added cannabinoids to that mix as an example. So there's all sorts of harm reduction that can occur. And so it's just a matter of times with lawsuits and the political environment here in the US to get caught up. So I bet you next summer it's kind of the beginning. The framework's already there. The draft regulations have already been published by the DEA. The 60-day comment period is already over. And so now it's really, this is their last pushback that they can do. And when the new administration comes in, whichever one it is, I do think we'll see Schedule III cannabis.
So as we segue into big ideas or opportunities, ways that we could collaborate, my big idea is with peers coming to us looking for funding, either internally or externally, that we could somehow do business until the money shows up. And so we created a world that's called coventures.world that really aligns co-venture partners that are going in different directions until we need them. Blackbird is a global nonprofit foundation opening up in 4 different continents. And out of that, we co-venture with the Cybersecurity Academy. And Moji, you mentioned about cybersecurity. And so we stepped into that because we're having almost daily conversations on that. Peers on Demand is sessions on a daily basis, the workday that we connect with people freely. ECHO is for humanity assessments, mental and emotional health. Savvy is to reduce healthcare employee benefits. Entrepreneur University is geared for small and medium-sized and large companies with over 600 modules of training. And Bob Norton can say a lot more about that as he steps into that. Inspire World is an e-commerce space to be able to provide revenue split of 50-50. Continuum is in the digital virtual space. If you think blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, all of that, that's a good space to look at. Government bids, buying surplus equipment, wealth transfer with RSL. Ruba.world is positioned in the Southeast China or Southeast Asia space. With a group of not just Malaysia, Singapore, but certainly Indonesia, Philippines, and certainly other philanthropic areas. The thought is that what if we could come together as co-ventures and partner up? And so we've got different areas, not just investments, but also marketing. These two seem to be what everybody wants and needs. And to get to that, we invite people to participate. But different areas that we focus is technology with cybersecurity. We're bringing on more technology partners for training in other areas. E-commerce platform, both in the nonprofit environment and the government environment. Distribution, both physical environment with the distribution team and also digital distribution with Continuum. Healthcare is a huge area that's expanding with ECHO, doing mental assessments, the neuroplasticity, online coaching, healthcare insurance, and advisory capacities, not just communications, but also coaching, consulting, training, even the wealth transfer that we're talking about with RSL. And aligning Malaysia, creating their own co-venture world group, and of course, philanthropic. The point is that we want to expand even more so you could freely join as a co-venture. You can become a partner and have access to weekly mastermind sessions or a chair that creates a group to be able to do not just a revenue share, the revenue share that can open up for opportunities. Cybersecurity seems to be top of mind, as is healthcare and also cannabis. But also chairing a group allows you to do a revenue split as well too. So that's my invitation, that you might consider being a co-venture partner and eventually co-venture chair. Let's hear from Steve Peterson. Steve, you mentioned you're 10 days away from launching. Could you say more? You've got your space with Citizen Green. You're aligned with Roku. There's a lot happening there, and you're inviting other people like Billy Fuchs to speak at your event, and hopefully you could invite others too. So Steve, what are the big ideas in your industry, your business? How do we work with you? Steve Peterson.
Well, thanks, Rocky. A couple of points. One thing is, yeah, so we're going to be streaming on multiple networks. Audience reach is going to be fantastic. For us right now, it's about quality content, right? And one of the topics I'd like to tie in with this group is one thing. I mean, I think this group, if it's open to it going forward, maybe once a month, this group, we record this as Rocky can, and maybe we broadcast it on our business channel, where we have discussions around what the big ideas are. And then frankly, one of the things, and Alan, my ears picked up with your notes. There's an issue in our industry about how people get engaged or involved in the industry, right? I mean, to get a license for a dispensary or a grow is expensive, right? In those worlds. And I guess the question is what other industries or service ancillary businesses could we get involved with that they could get in like a franchise, at a reasonable rate, without the burden of being one of the main license holders. So anyway, something that I'll throw out there is as a topic because there are people out there, they don't have $500,000 or $1 million to invest. They might have 100,000 to invest. And like buying a Subway shop franchise, how can they engage with the cannabis CBD market in a way that's um, fruitful for everybody? So anyway, those were the two things. Anybody have any specific questions that I can
Yeah,
answer
yeah. I've
or?
got a question before I open it up to the group, Steve.
Mhm.
Who is who do you have now? That would give us an idea who potentially could join you. Who's working with you at this point, Steve?
We've got a whole lineup of content. I've got Grunstyle Foundation, which is a $150 million a year t-shirt sales company, who's produced a whole library of content for veterans. I have Jimmy Young and Pro Cannabis Media, which has a weekly show called We Talk News. I have a daily sports talk show. I have cooking shows. I have Bill Fuchs and Holly Butler are doing a show out of Wyoming each week about cannabis, CBD. They had a guest on with nurses. So the diversity of our content has grown. We have movies, we have events. We recorded an event in Southeast Ohio in late July. It was called the Stargazer Cannabis Festival. So you'll see all that. I put a link in the chat box early. You can see one of our previews. But yeah, it's been an exciting time. So for me, I feel like from a content perspective, I have my anchor tenants in the mall built. Where I'm looking to add a little more content is what I call the B2B channel. So we have entertainment, live streaming, pay-per-view, business channels, and all this is going to be broadcast across the Apples and the Androids and our mobile apps as well. So, Felipe, even with what you're doing internationally, this is a great way to communicate to an audience that's worldwide. So
Oh, I like that. So what I got for that is anybody can participate as long as they provide you with some content. Does it have to be audio, visual, or both?
right now we're preferring video content. We have the ability to add 3 audio on demand channels as well. We're in discussions with a group called Veterans Voice Radio, which has music that they have playing, streaming. So this whole world of streaming is kind of interesting. And the one point for the cannabis audience, um, it's considered connected device TV. So in other words, the FCC governs the linear, which is the cable and over the air. Streaming or connected server to server or server to your Roku enabled device is not governed by the FCC. So we can do more around the cannabis theme in terms of, like somebody can smoke, on air while they're talking to their audience or things of that nature without worrying about getting booted off. So, and we obviously can run ads. So for an MSO, this is a great way to create a brand awareness across all regions, even if they're not in those regions yet. So.
Well,
And
we all
again, it's
want brands.
folks at the bottom, I'm looking through my content lineup and I've got probably 500,000 followers based on the talent I have. I've got probably 600 titles right now of shows. Um, my biggest thing is how do we help reach that audience and make them aware? Here's a place where they can safely watch and learn, right?
Right.
So if they want to learn about franchising opportunities, if they want to get a job in the industry, they just want to learn how to consume it or help them sleep better at night. That's kind of the environment we're creating. And I'm also working with industrial hemp. So I have a group out of Australia that's bringing a show on about building hemp homes, okay? Hempcrete homes onto, and doing a whole series on that. So anyway, it's growing like crazy, and hope you guys would want to join. And frankly, even put this discussion into a monthly show that we would air on the network. So it was so
Good. Well, let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback for Steve. Anybody want some free? I don't know if it's free, but free marketing or potentially free, but certainly to an audience globally. Anybody have a question?
Steve, I looked at your website briefly. Be happy to talk, and I'll send you my speaker sheet. As we said earlier, I've got 600 videos, and we focus on entrepreneurship. So I'm not sure there's a huge overlap there with the veterans theme and the other things you've got going on. But happy to talk.
yeah. In fact, also too, Bob, we're partnered with a company called C-Suite TV, which our chairman of our board is
I
from
just got off
Kodak.
their board of advisor call an hour ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and Jeff Hazlett, yeah. Yeah, so we're looking for those kind of shows that speak about entrepreneurship. To me, that's the thing that attracted me to the industry. And that's why I threw to Alan earlier is, how do people get engaged in this industry in an effective way, right? Without, what are the services, the ancillary services they can get involved with, and how do they get started? And I think there's a whole storyline that's waiting to be told there. So.
Well, we all have a story to tell, so thanks for that, Steve. Appreciate it. Let's hear from Bill Fuchs. Bill's involved out of Wisconsin in the cannabis area. Recently involved DoorDash. He also has a kiosk. So there's a lot of things going on there, Bill. Maybe you could say it better than I can about what are the big ideas in your industry, your business. How do we work with you, Bill, or how do you promote yourself in the next 6 to 12 months? Bill
Just
Fuchs.
had, and I was saying yesterday, or a little bit earlier, we just had a medical doctor on yesterday that is cutting the path for everybody else to get some logic in how cannabis is used. Cannabis is used for actual medical purposes. So how we're promoting ourselves is we're actually positioning ourselves. Our strategic plan is to do the best we can with hemp and mushroom products, legal mushroom products right now with the highest testing standard in the nation, which has been received very well. We've grown 600% in the last 16 months. We have 4 revenue streams right now with online sales in all 50 states, plus our automated kiosks, our physical dispensary in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and now DoorDash. And our whole plan is to see what direction the wind blows, what the rules and regulations are, but to put us first in line in the queue for whenever Wisconsin or federal legalizes, so that we have the option as an established brand with an established following and audience, 4 times higher repeat customers than industry standard, that we could either add MedRec, we could switch to MedRec, spin off one of our divisions, or just continue with what we have right now. So our whole plan is to basically get ourselves positioned in the best potential for real growth later on. Not that 600% isn't sufficient, but we really could kick it in gear because we'll be way ahead of the competition in Wisconsin here when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, you positioned yourself ahead of the rest of the country, I suspect as well too, Bill. So I'm just curious. At some point, I've watched your business grow with the kiosks. There were some challenges there. You overcame them. Also expanding more so from regulatory aspects. And you were expanding also to a new business area. So what does the next 6 to 12 months look like for your growth, Bill?
Well, that's an excellent question that if you could tell me what's going to happen in November, I can give you a little bit better answer on. Right now, we're really challenged with doing projections because I've got so many different scenarios with what if scenarios because we don't know what's going to happen with the election, which way the wind blows, if we're going to be another 4 years of the same old, or if we might be going to war. Who knows? So the way we're looking at it is regardless of what happens, we have a different game plan different setup. And one nice thing is the hemp and mushroom industry on the retail side is war resistant and economy resistant. It's something that we've seen based on history that we do very well when the economy's up because people have additional um, capital to spend, but it also does very well when the economy is not doing well due to the additional stress and anxiety. So that's an excellent question, Rocky. I wish I had a better picture. If you had the crystal ball and you can tell me what's going on with regs and what the rules of the game are, I'll tell you how we're going to play it. So with that's why we're at keeping the multiple revenue streams. DoorDash has surprisingly started to take off already. We've only signed up for 1 week. We're in the beta program on that. So we're just trying to make sure that we have all of our I's dotted, T's crossed, all the chess pieces ready to go for when the game starts. It'll be very interesting come this November election.
Yeah, well, we're going to have your regulation. I think the bigger picture is when does the U.S. as an entity step in completely? So short term, there's going to be some questions. Long term, I think you're going in the right direction. Let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback for Bill. Anybody? So one other quick question then, Bill. You've got the healthcare kiosks. At one point, you had 4 of them. How many are you up to now?
No, we're still holding it for.
Oh,
We're
okay.
still holding it for because we've got 2 different manufacturers we've been working with. And honestly, we were a little bit closer. We don't mind being on the cutting edge. We're very tech savvy. However, we're finding out we're a little bit closer to the bleeding edge than we really wanted to be. And that what that means to me is we're doing free beta testing for the manufacturers, it appears, because we're really pushing the envelope. And they're not just health and wellness machines. We actually have one at Brookfield Square Mall, one over at a bar music venue, one at a liquor store, and then one in our vestibule for 24/7 sales. And we have everything from vapes, flour, edibles, gummies, and mushroom products in the machines right now. So it's I don't, based on our research and what we've seen with the competition, we didn't feel that the medical only or the health and wellness play was going to be substantial enough to keep the machines going. The machines are generating positive revenue. I mean, they're paying for themselves plus bringing additional revenue. But honestly, our online growth and this last Google algorithm has really kicked things into the gear online. So our focus is online. We're still doing the machines. We're still working on that. Actually, I have 2 more manufacturers we're evaluating. Just took a little bit of a backseat position until it is a little bit more proven.
Yeah, well, I wish you well with that. Thank you for that. Let's hear from Bob Norton. Bob has started 6 businesses, currently has 2 of them. He sold 4 of them, has an online training for small, medium-sized, and large companies, 600 modules in his repertoire. So, Bob, maybe you could say it better. What are the big ideas in your industry, in your business? What are you doing to drive your business forward in the next 6 to 12 months? Bob Norton.
Well, we just started training 5 new airtight growth consultants that are 20+ year people in the final 10 years of their career probably, who will help our clients install all the systems needed for growth. We are the first standard leadership operating system for growth companies that are venture capital worthy and want to get to 100 million. Most people know that 80% of startups fail, but they don't know only 1 in 400 companies will ever become a $10 million company, which is small, or 1 in 6,300 will become a $100 million company. So the reason for failure there is numerous, but we solve all of those problems and drop in pre-built systems that on average take 7 to 10 years for companies to figure out on their own, according to Jim Collins, author of Good to Great, who obviously studied a lot of companies that reached that pinnacle of $100 million plus. So we go in with training, coaching, and consulting and take the cap off of a company's growth and enable entrepreneurs to obviously to focus on their vision, their mission, and what they're trying to do, but installing all the management and leadership discipline that's required. Contrary to popular belief, the limit on growth is not sales, it's not marketing, it's managers, and you've got to have an internal system to grow your people because good managers solve all problems.
Good, thanks for that, Bob. You mentioned that you've got a guarantee. Can you say more about what is that guarantee all about, Bob?
Yeah, we price ourselves the same as a 1 day a week fractional COO, and sometimes wear that hat. But what we want is to get a piece of the company. So if we will guarantee to add $10 million to the company's valuation with a 1 year engagement, and that will happen within 2 or 3 years, looking at the valuation of the business. And we don't vest the equity, which will typically be 1 to 3% of the company, unless we hit those benchmarks. So that's our guarantee, and there's no one else in the world that does that. We will also typically guarantee a 50x ROI. And the reason we can do that is because we know we're going to do 100 or even 200x ROI, because we push on all three of the metrics that drive company valuation. Most companies only push on one of those metrics, which is top line sales. We also will drive up the price to earnings ratio as well as the growth ratio. And so if you double each of those, you'll actually have 8x'd the value of the business, because those are mathematically multiplicative when you value a business.
Yeah, good point. Thanks for that, Bob. Let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback for Bob. Anybody?
I'm curious if you have some of the companies I've got into had really bad financials coming into them, and so as we recap them and try to clean them up, I've had trouble finding talent to do these cleanups on kind of non-existent books. A lot of it was we're just trying to reconstruct uh, financials from prior years just to have a starting clean base. You have experience with that, or a team that does this in cannabis? We've hired non-cannabis people, and they just can't. I've gone through 3 or 4 groups, and none of them have been able to pull it off.
Yeah, I understand that. We wouldn't do that ourselves. We would help coordinate and bring in people that would do that. Doing the forensic accounting, is a specialty, and obviously the cannabis industry is a little different because of the federal regulations, and I'm sure that contributes to the poor records, right? Because they can't have bank accounts in some states, and use a lot of cash and all that sort of stuff. So it's got its unique problems. But that's not rocket science. I mean, a good CPA is going to be able to figure that out using the standard GAAP stuff. So we would bring in a firm that has all 4 levels of the accounting expertise, which are bookkeeper, accountant, controller, and CFO, because when you have that stack of experience, you can, that's an easy checklist to do. And obviously you need more of the bookkeeper figuring out the details, and just a little bit of the CFO level expertise to oversee that, and make sure it's going to comply with tax requirements and GAAP standards and all that sort of stuff. So sure, we could point you to a number of companies we have in our network that could do that easily.
I would add, Felipe, and I did some of that work for clients, but I don't do it now. Dope CFO is a network of industry-related folks, okay, to check out.
Good. Thanks for that, Steve. Appreciate it. So let's hear from Alan Goldberg. Alan is a franchise consultant focused particular industries. Maybe you can say it better than I can, Alan, in terms of what are the big ideas in your industries, your business? How do we work with you? Or maybe more important, how do you move forward in the next 6 to 12 months? Alan Goldberg.
Well, we do have a broad spectrum of different types of businesses. My personal favorites are the health and wellness, primarily because of the aging demographics of the nation. Boomers are becoming seniors, so there's a lot of growth opportunity in health and wellness businesses, and people who want to participate in potentially investing in a franchise. And like we discussed earlier in the conversation today, sharing the investment cost evidently is a big opportunity here, because to get involved, you aren't outlaying a lot of cash or as much as you would trying to grow a national business on your own, being able to do it locally and in this case, in markets where it's legal and acceptable, you can be very focused in areas where you have the best opportunities. So it offers a lot of opportunity for somebody who wants to get into this space or related businesses in health and wellness where they could basically cross promote and help each other grow one another's primary business. But the best way to get me involved is really just to reach out to me and reach me on LinkedIn. And I will drop my LinkedIn address in. I don't think it was on my footer before, but I'll include that. And that's best way. This is like so much we could cover. I'm not going to waste everyone's time, but I would be much more inclined to want to do it one-on-one where I can really target the conversation more precisely.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alan. Let me ask you, is there a consideration for a cannabis franchise in the near or long-term future?
Well, there are existing franchises in cannabis right now. The name escapes me. I'll have to look it up while we're on the call. But there are a couple of different businesses currently operating as franchise businesses in the space.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback for Alan. Anybody?
Yeah, Alan, I mean, that goes to the question that I was asking earlier about creating opportunities. There's a guy I know in Maine who's created a biochar kiln that would handle waste, but also I like it because it has crossover capabilities into non-cannabis type ag solutions. So again, I think our market has to find ways to engage those opportunities at the lower level because not everybody's got the bank to go after stores and things of that nature. So.
Good. Thanks for that, Steve. Appreciate it, Alan. So let's hear from Philippe Recalde. Philippe is an operator in many areas, not just the U.S. I caught Portugal. You mentioned so many different countries that I couldn't write fast enough, but your focus, of course, is as an operator also in different areas of compound genetics is what I wrote down. So maybe you could say a little bit better than I can, Philippe, in terms of what are the big ideas in your industry, your business, and how are you moving forward in the next 6 to 12 months, Philippe?
That the U.S. market's behind the global markets. We've seen pretty unstable both regulations and market conditions here in the U.S. So we've been focusing largely in stable markets that are federally legal. We spent a few years getting into them, learning all the laws. Some of them did go backwards, like Thailand, but now we've found stability and kind of built a multinational supply chain where we have producing countries, and then we export our IP and our finished flower in our packaged brand kind of. I'd say it's not a franchise. We bring genetics into a facility. They partner with us. They license access to those proprietary genetics along with usage of our brand in that market. And then we reserve rights to go sell all that flower to our customers. And so I anticipate more countries opening up and to import and export. There's been a really tight agricultural material and genetics are really tightly controlled. And as more and more countries allow for the import and create a process to work with the UN with registered transports of genetics, along with the different ministries of ag, that's what we're figuring out. We're figuring out how to bridge existing intellectual property into federally legal markets and really think that in the next 6 to 9 months, we'll see that in the US. So we're taking kind of all the experience that we've gained internationally working in, these are actual, medical, but they're actually pharmaceutical companies in these countries. They all follow pharmaceutical standards. And so we see the US going in that direction and being able to then facilitate the transition of groups into medical and pharmaceutical supply chain here in the US as rescheduling happens.
So the question is, Philippe, how soon? You mentioned that the U.S. will follow that. Is there a timeline, years, this decade? What does it look like, Philippe?
Well, the I guess directive had already been initiated. It was supposed to happen before the election, according to everything that's been signed and pushed along. The DEA has pushed back and said that they're going to move it forward after the election, saying they're hoping that maybe a presidential or a party change might postpone it. The DEA doesn't want to do this, but it's out of the box. It already happened. Human and Health Services report to Congress has shown medical uses. We're showing medical uses in every other country in the world. World Health Organization has created, really everybody in the UN has a framework for exchanging medical cannabis. So it's just a matter of time for the US to do it. I anticipate it happening in probably Q2. Even Trump, if something were to happen and it's not Kamala, even Trump has signaled with, what seems to happen is as soon as super donors get on your cap table, you start to change your tune about cannabis. And so we've seen even Trump supporting the, medical cannabis in Florida and now putting out statements about supporting it in the US. So regardless of party, I don't think it's going to change. And right now, the US really needs to make changes in the medical system where too many people are dying from opioids and other drugs. And we could take a fifth of the opioids if you added cannabinoids to that mix as an example. So there's all sorts of harm reduction that can occur. And so it's just a matter of times with lawsuits and the political environment here in the US to get caught up. So I bet you next summer it's kind of the beginning. The framework's already there. The draft regulations have already been published by the DEA. The 60-day comment period is already over. And so now it's really, this is their last pushback that they can do. And when the new administration comes in, whichever one it is, I do think we'll see Schedule 3 cannabis.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. It's a fast changing world, not just technology, political, but also global in scope. Let me open it up to see if anybody has a question, comment, thought, feedback for Philippe. Anybody?
Mary Lau here. Philippe, do you see just cannabis or do you see microdosing and mushrooms and stuff like that coming forward?
So I'm active in clinical research on both. So really all botanically derived drugs, and so we're seeing amazing results with compounds. Cannabis has like a good 400 compounds to really research, and really fungi. Some of the psilocybin mushroom lines have over 1,000. So there's still so much to figure out. And when we're seeing, different immuno responses and different antibacterial, antiviral qualities, and a lot of these even non-psychoactive compounds, then I do think that's coming on a first state-based initiative. We're seeing more states kind of opening it up and really, as more papers get published on neuroplasticity, everybody in kind of America has someone that they know that has some sort of mental illness or trauma or something. So I think it's another path where compassion is going to move policy forward, and one day hopefully we get to something sensible that isn't completely owned by the existing pharma infrastructure.
Yeah, if I could chip in on that one too. I don't think the mushrooms and psychedelics are going to come with legalization in cannabis. I think they're going to keep them separated. But if I recall, it's Oregon, Colorado, New Jersey already have research licenses in place, where as long as there's no money exchange, you can grow. You can a licensed psychiatrist, I believe, can prescribe and then a consumer can consume as long as there's no money exchange, which I think is actually a really good way to do a research license personally. But I think it's going to be a while. One of the things I think, though, I'm not as optimistic as you guys are with either party getting everything legalized next year, because I just don't think all the states are going to agree. And I'll bring the one to front. We've got states that are arguing that all psychoactive hemp should be illegal. And then we have, was it North Carolina or South Carolina? I can't remember which Carolina's just brought back THCO, which is as a synthetic. It's not even a naturally occurring cannabinoid. So I think we have a real cluster blank before to get regular, get figured out before they legalize. We still don't have banking straightened out yet, and that was supposed to have been done. I think FDIC legalized hemp banking and depository relationships and lending back in August of 2019. So I think that's a very optimistic approach. I wish it would happen, but I don't know. I think I'll bet the over.
So I do have to comment. So even when the federal rescheduling occurs, states can override it. No
Correct.
different than where alcohol was legal federally after prohibition, but many states were dry states and you couldn't go to. So that won't change anything. And they could, that's just how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, it's gonna be a screwed up mess for probably the rest of our lifetime, is my opinion. That's my pessimistic. The glass is not half full on that one today, but yeah, I mean that's spot on. Yeah, federally it could be legal, which would potentially open up at least the banking and regular, but I don't know.
Bill,
So,
when you look at Massachusetts and what happened there, the dispensaries were legalized, and it took 2.5 or 3 years before they were actually allowed to open because the government was getting its act together in terms of what was legal and what was not. So the legislature legalized it, but it really still took 2 to 3 years for anyone to be able to open for practical purposes.
And I would say we have a cannabis bank. I'll put the URL on the bottom. It took me a few years. I went through quite a bit of challenges dealing with FinCEN regulations, and really it was a company called Ease in California. They got into a lawsuit over how they were making payments, and all my bank accounts got shut down. It was a 2-year DOJ probe, and at the end of it, I was like, no, we need fully legal banking. So we spent 2 years building a FinCEN compliant neobank, and we bank over 100 cannabis companies. We do have now available charter through the neobank in all 50 states, but we're only opening in federally legal. It's a pure high risk bank. So I'll put the URL here on the bottom if you need banking or still having trouble with that.
Yeah, we're actually still having problems on the hemp side, even with POS. We've changed our POS 3 times, not by choice.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah. By the way, POS no longer stands as point of service, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I'm also in Suite, a point of sale system, and so happy we can chat offline. I'll give you both URLs, have point of sale, payments, and banking.
Perfect. Yeah. Banking I can't do though. We're not legal in Wisconsin. We're only all cannabinoids. And we're a full THC state, so it's been very interesting because I was going to say if we had time, THCA would be one I'd like. There's another one. I wish that the hemp industry would have got out of THCA, given it to the med rec industry, because then you guys could have shipped all 50 states with THCA. But it's another sidebar.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Let's hear from Mary Lau out of beautiful Nevada. Mary, you're involved with a retail group. I wonder if you could share with us what your thoughts might be, or what your members are talking about in terms of cannabis. Mary Lau?
Yeah, I'm actually the president of our retail association in Nevada. So we do state, local, and federal legislative activities and stuff, elections and all this other stuff. When cannabis became legal in Nevada, they set up a cannabis compliance board. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call would roll their eyes over that because they're not very advanced, they're not very technically knowledgeable, and they certainly aren't following any trends on the medical benefits of it. So we have cannabis growers and distributors in our membership, and we watch the legislation closely and are looking forward to the federal legislation. I hope Felipe is more correct than you are, Bill, as far as getting it done early and stuff. But we also represent the pharmacies in Nevada. The pharmacies will sell it once it becomes legalized, but we have an internal concern that the pharmacies will try to take it over, AKA big tobacco stuff too. So
it's happening.
Yeah, how it comes out is going to be very critical to protect our members. And we have some very good ones. I mean, they're multi-state and everything else, but I'm enjoying this conversation and tapping the brains on this call towards future thought and everything else, because we're getting ready for our legislative session. I haven't seen any bill draft requests yet, but we have banking interests and everything else involved. So thus my participation, Rocky.
Good. Well, thanks for that. Appreciate it, Mary. Let's hear from Mike Vaughn. Mike, we're close to the hour. If you might share maybe your thoughts. You come from a M&A environment. You also mentioned iCreo, which I'm not familiar enough with that, but maybe you could say it better about what are the big ideas in your industry, your business. How are you moving forward in the next 6 to 12 months? Mike Vaughn.
So what we're doing now is we got a tremendous amount of strategic alliances. I'm in communication with Bob Norton. I'm probably gonna find the right client for him to engage in. So where we separate ourselves from most M&A guys is we've opened up a fractional business development arm. So everything's going to this fractional CEO, fractional CFO, business development through organically and through mergers and acquisitions. So a lot going on. I'm not a franchise guy, even though Empire Business Brokers, the group I'm a part of, the founder is specializes in franchise. He charges 30 or 40 grand to put this together. Where I came across the medical opportunities was about 12 months ago. iCryo is Restore, iCryo are two of the main franchises. And what they are is the health and wellness is, I just got out of back surgery three weeks ago. So I've used the hyperbaric chamber, I've used the ozones, the IVs. They've got what's called lifestyles. It's a nice price point. It's $200 a month. All right. And they're looking for demographics of an average income of about 125,000 and above. And then it's got your outsource, besides your lifestyle, it's got your premium IVs, ozone, HBOTs. They've got sculpting. They've got a number of different things because I've got chronic arthritis. I've had shoulder, hip, back twice. So I'm tired of taking all my meds. So I'm after anything natural that's going to reduce my inflammation. So these guys, they're in the process of expanding globally. I'm in the process of trying to get some P&Ls, but my understanding for an initial 1.2 million investment, you get that back in 3 years. And then they just got those premium. There's another franchise called Game Day, which is testosterone related. All right. So now iCryo and Game Day is already taken up in Michigan. So I've got the iCryo guys looking at the services Game Day has and making it part of iCryo. So, and then again, I've got the Provenogen and Clozak products that I'm trying to joint venture that are good medical. We've got a one-stop grafting. So we've got a lot going on in a lot of different areas that I'd be more than happy. We're just looking for open-minded business owners.
Well, you've got them here, Mike. Certainly, I invite them to connect with you and certainly continue the conversation. My invitation is that you could join us again in a month. We do this on a monthly basis with Cannabis Executives and Franchise Executives, but you don't have to wait a month. You can certainly join us before then at any of the events. You can go to peersondemand.com for the events and also consider being a partner. You can go to coventures.info to get more information.
I'm very interested in that because